Hi, I'm Dane Campbell. Welcome to Change with Dane. I hope you all are having success on your journey with change, and that some of the things that I've been talking about the past few weeks have been helpful to you as you're trying to find greater peace and success in life by looking at small things that you can do different in your life that will help you on your journey. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about our thoughts. I have often had the experience with clients and them doubting whether or not they can actually change their thoughts. Thoughts can be challenging and they're a little bit difficult because a lot of times we don't consciously work with and attempt to change and make different our thought processes and our thought patterns. And a lot of times it's challenging for people to even know exactly what they are thinking in certain situations and about certain aspects of their life. But I have found that many people can be very successful at changing behaviors. And the true success will be maximized if they can find a way to find the thoughts that are driving their behaviors or the things that they want to change, and also change those thoughts in a way that will get them closer to their goal in change. If you remember, I talked a little bit about habits a couple of weeks ago and how many of the things we do in life are habitual. And I would argue that our thoughts fall within the same category. We have an inner dialogue playing in our mind all the time that we are awake. And a lot of times this inner dialogue, we don't even know, or we are not consciously aware that this inner dialogue is taking place. And it's a very powerful voice in our mind that is leading us to do all of the different things that we do and experience in a day. And oftentimes, the inner dialogue that's playing in the back of our mind may be leading us to do things that are beneficial to us in our lives, but quite frequently, that inner dialogue might be taking us down a path that, if we could change it, would make our lives more peaceful, more satisfying, and happier. So today I want to talk a little bit about how we might identify some of those thoughts that are in this inner dialogue, and how we might be able to start challenging the validity of some of those thoughts, challenging the truthfulness of some of those thoughts, so that we can then begin to do the process to see if there might be other things that we could tell ourselves that would help us find greater peace and happiness in life. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. If you're old like me, you may have grown up with a parent that was teaching you the importance, let's say, of dental hygiene. And they gave you their voice many, many times over about the importance of brushing your teeth, that you don't want to have bad breath, and if you keep your teeth clean, there's less chance of getting cavities and having to go to the dentist, suffer that pain, and eventually having, good, strong, healthy teeth for many years to come. So until we all develop that habit of picking up the toothbrush, putting on the toothpaste, and cleaning our dents, there was probably some consternation on our part, probably a lot of forgetting to do that on a daily basis, maybe some pushback because as children we didn't see the importance of that. But eventually most of us learned the importance based upon the voice of our parents telling us to take care of your teeth so that your breath don't stink and your teeth eventually won't fall out. And that dialogue still plays for all of us in the back of our mind in the morning or in the evening or whenever you pick up your toothbrush to brush your teeth. You may not be consciously telling yourself, I am doing this so that my breath don't stink and my teeth stay healthy. You may be thinking about the night's sleep that wasn't that good, or the things that you have to do during the day, the hundreds of things on your list of things to get done that day. You may be thinking about a vacation you're going to take, or the disagreement or misunderstanding you had with a child or a significant other. The action of brushing your teeth has become habitual. But there is a voice somewhere in the back of your mind playing and telling you that that particular action is important to carry out and to do. So there are many, many things that we do in a day that is driven by this inner dialogue that's playing in the back of our mind, and we're not even conscious or aware of it. So let's talk about a situation that is just an example where someone may have this inner dialogue playing that oftentimes might bring a reaction or an overreaction of a situation, and how they might be able to look at some thoughts which are different that could change that behavior or the effect of a situation. I'm sure that many of us who have driven have had somebody pull out in front of us in a hasty manner, and maybe even in an unsafe manner, and maybe even in a way that created a near accident or even an accident. When this happens, we have generally a lot of responses to that situation. We may have physical responses with our breathing increasing, our heart racing. We may even get the shakes. We could have physiological responses where we break out into sweats. We may have emotional responses where we get very, very angry or extremely scared. And all of those things that happen to us can be distressing in the moment, especially if we feel like our safety is being put into jeopardy. Behind all of those reactions are some thoughts that are happening. And let me give you an example. When somebody pulls out like that, if you tend to act with an anger response, you may be saying in your mind or yelling even in the car, "That asshole, why did he pull out in front of me? He could have killed me. He could have killed my children who are sitting in the back. Why did they do that?" So an inner dialogue, right? You're telling yourself something about that situation that ramps up the responses that are happening within you because of the circumstances that you just experienced. So I want to offer you this idea that we can challenge that very thought process if we slow it down just a little bit and allow ourselves to think about the options that might be available to tell ourselves something different. Now, granted, I admit that the person might simply be an asshole, and they may not care who's on the road around them, and they may not care who they hurt or who they cause to have fear or anger. That could be true. But there's alternatives that could be true as well. It could be that they're the safest driver on the road, but maybe they just received bad news of a parent or close loved one who has died, and maybe their mind is in a different place than where it usually is when they drive. Maybe they or somebody in their family has experienced an emergency, and they have, allowed themselves to not be as safe because they're trying to rush to a person or a situation where they feel is very important that they get there quick. Maybe they're a new driver that is overwhelmed with the situation. And even though they're trying their hardest, maybe they just haven't got the automatic responses down to be able to give people the right spacing or to look or to take care of others on the road as well as others might. So there is a glimmer of a possibility that any of those other thoughts could be just as truthful than somebody's pulling out and may potentially want to hurt you, or they just don't care. And you are still probably going to have a lot of those very same responses that I talked about. Your heart might still race. You still might feel scared. You still might even think, boy, that was a boneheaded move that they just did. But any one of those other thoughts have the potential to reduce your response to that situation. The key to identifying the thoughts that we're having and how they might be affecting us is to slow the process down. Let me just ask you to try this on a daily basis. When you go to do something that's a kind of an automatic thing that you do every day, whether it's, brushing your teeth, putting on your socks, doing your hair, just take a minute and ask yourself, what am I thinking right now? What is going on in my head while I'm doing this activity that is generally quite mindless for me? And as you start to do that, you will uncover the thoughts that drive your behaviors. And you can even do this with negative behaviors. If you respond to a significant other with a great deal of negativity, you can slow that down and say, why am I thinking of the most, or why am I saying the most negative thing that I can in this situation? And you may then discover that the thought that you're allowing to drive the behavior is something that you could potentially challenge or change in such a way that it could change the whole impact of your response and what you do in certain situations. I'm going to talk more about this next week because I think that this is a very important thing to make a priority in our change. I love to work with people and work on them changing their behaviors. But I truly believe if people can even change the thought just a tiny bit, just a small bit, it can have a huge impact on our behaviors and the success or the potential success we can have in making lasting change that will bring you greater peace and success in your life. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you'll subscribe and I hope you'll like. And if you find this helpful at all, please share it. If you have questions or would like to know more about change, please visit my website at changewithdane.com or leave comments below, and I will answer those or by answering the comments or even in a future video. Again, thanks so much for watching and take care.